Hi there, welcome to the Golf Shack down here at Moor Allerton in Leeds. My name is James Savage, I'm the equipment editor at National Club Golfer magazine. I'm joined by our editor Dan Murphy.
Hello.
Today we've gone a bit old school as part of our annual driver test. This was just me and Dan, all the latest drivers, all the best drivers, just having a good hit, not worrying about our spin rates and our face to path and things like that we'd get off Trackman, just looking at how they look at address. Do they fill us with confidence? What do they sound like? You know, what do we feel like over the ball? So it was quite nice for once, wasn't it, Dan, just to hit a few drivers without worrying about what Trackman's saying.
It was actually quite liberating, and it felt more like the experience of being on the course, because ultimately, have you got that spin rate right on the number, or have you flighted it just so? It doesn't really matter. It's, you know, have you got the thing in play? Is it chasing down the fairway? And it just kind of felt like it reconnected us this morning with those feelings of could actually use this driver on the course. Absolutely.
I mean, if you want to, know a little bit more about, in terms of like what ball speeds these drivers are capable of, I go and have a look at some of our videos on our YouTube channel, on our website, where our anonymous big hitters hit them all. A really good player, hitting them near enough out the middle every time. So if you want to get that information, we've got it. Go and find it. But today, we didn't want to bombard you with data because we've got drivers here we've got 8 drivers effectively here. So then that would have been a lot of data if we'd have started going through the numbers of all of those. So we went through this today alphabetically. Why not? And we started off with the 2 Callaway GBB Epic drivers. I've hit these drivers quite a bit so far this year. Dan, this was more of a sort of a first hit for you with them. How did you feel they looked and performed for you?
Well, instantly comfortable with Callaway as how their drivers look. I think probably more than any other brand, I'm just instantly happy with what it looks like behind the ball. I mean, for me, that's going right the way back to the original Great Big Bertha. Showing my age a little bit there, but ever since then, Callaway drivers, almost without exception, just looked fantastic, and the Epic is very much in that school as well.
Yeah, I really like both drivers, to be honest with you, and I'm quite surprised with the Sub-Zero model, because my instant reaction with that is that that's just going to be a super low spinning, like better player driver, but it's actually really playable. And I couldn't split the two really if I was going to pick which one I was going to go out and use. They're very similar address. There does seem to be plenty of forgiveness in that Sub-Zero model. That weight is, there's quite a bit of weight at the back as well. It's not all just sort of front loaded with the weight to keep that spin down. I like the moving weight on the regular Epic. That can be quite good for me, but it's all about strike for me. And if I can find the middle of the club face, more often than not, the adjustability is negated to a certain extent. So yeah, I'd probably, out of the two, I'd be leaning towards the Sub-Zero model. Next up, we had it's the King F7 drivers from Cobra. I was actually hitting the regular F7. Dan had a go with the F7 Plus, which is just a slightly more compact head shape. I'm a big fan of the King F7, mainly because I set it down, moving from the Callaway. It did look a little bit bigger. The footprint of that F7 is nice and big. It filled with confidence. It's just maybe a little bit sort of like busier at address with the sort of like alignment aids and things like that, but it filled me with plenty of confidence. It's got a nice sound off the face, very similar to the Callaway actually. It's just quite a firm, solid sound, not high pitched or sweet in any way. I just think it's a good driver for the majority of handicaps, the F7.
Yeah, I was quite surprised. I thought that the F7 Plus would be the one for me, and I actually preferred the look and the feel of F7. I just found with F7 Plus, and that these things are just so individual, that he had the alignment edge of Cobra running across the back and the top line, and they didn't quite match to me, and I just, when I was standing over at address, felt that I was just slightly skew with in terms of my alignment. It's just personal, it's not to do with the club. That's just the way I felt when I put F7 down. Felt much more comfortable with it. Felt like a driver that was really jumping off the face as well. And again, I know that if we had been on Trackman, this is where it's interesting, is that I know there would have been very little difference in those ball speeds. But for me as a golfer, I felt F7 was trying to help me, was trying to go forward. F7 Plus didn't feel like it was quite as lively.
Yeah, and bonus that you get with the Cobra drivers this year, as we've talked about before, you get that Arcos technology in the grip, which, I think that I've said it before that, like I said, there's not a lot of difference in performances with these drivers. The Cobra numbers are right up there with everything else. And you get that added bonus of the game tracking technology in the grip as well. So if you're into your tech and you like to analyse your rounds afterwards, I'd definitely take a look at the Cobras. For that reason, it is a bit of an added bonus. Next up, the best colours of any driver are the Mizuno JPX900. I think this is Mizuno's best driver. I really do think that it's not a niche club in any way. It's a nice large footprint driver. It's got a big head. It's got lots of adjustability. I love that blue crown. It sort of whistles through the air when you swing it, and it makes a really loud, sort of quite high pitched, just a sound that makes you think, yeah, I've absolutely smashed that, which is kind of what you want from a driver, isn't it?
Like the only thing I can't agree with you there is on the blue crown, and I've said it for a couple of years on Mizuno drivers. I just don't think that blue crown matches what I'm looking for in a Mizuno product. I just think it's a little bit too much of it. I think the head shape is fantastic, and this is another driver very similar to the Callaway, where as soon as I put it down behind the ball, I thought, oh, this is going to be fun. I kept saying to you, well, I think I'm going to be able to hit a nice high draw with this. It just looked like something that could get launching. Really like the sound with this. If I was picking a sound of any of the drivers that we've used today, I would have said the Mizuno. It just sounds sweet. It sounds like you're really hitting it nicely. So really impressed with the driver. Colour's not for me, I'm sorry, but the rest of the driver, brilliant.
Yeah, that's fair enough, Dan. Next up, we had the Ping, which is the Ping Zhi LX Tech. And the one thing that struck me here when we went from the Callaway to the Cobra to the Mizuno, you put that Ping driver down, and it does fill you with the most confidence out of every driver. It's almost like it should be in a category, like a heavyweight category or something, because it just looks like there's so much club there. Someone like me, that's really pleasing to see, because it makes me feel, I know it's not true, but it does make me feel like I'm not going to be able to miss with it, and I think that is really good. That's a massive plus point for me. The one thing where I would say about the Ping drivers, which isn't what I love about them, and that is the sound. I do think that it's again very personal thing. There's nothing wrong with the sound. It just sounds a bit harsh to me. It doesn't have a soft or a sweet sound and feel to me. But I can't argue with the performance. It's very forgiving. You can hit it pretty much all over the face, and you'll still get a decent result out of it.
So I've been using this driver for some time now. So the shock to me was seeing how different it looks to all of the other drivers in the test. Because obviously I'm so used to it that I barely notice, and it looks like a big black wall behind the ball at address. I mean, I just hadn't really realised that. It really does feel more than any other driver that you can get into the back of the ball with no fuss whatsoever. I agree with you about the noise. I think it is quite high pitched, and that won't be for everyone. And look, that is not the prettiest driver on test, but I've been using that for a while, and I can tell you that it is so reliable, so consistent, and I know now, without looking up, I know exactly where I've hit it. And to me, it's not really about can I bust one 15 yards further than anything else. It's can I get the maximum number of drives out there in play, give me a chance with my next shot, and I know that driver is doing really well on that score.
Okay. Alphabetically, where did we go after?
Into TaylorMade next, aren't we?
We've reached the TaylorMade M1 and M2 clubs, which I think the best looking drivers at address for me. I just think they've just got a little bit of extra X factor, if you like. Just really appealing to look at. I just love that white and black contrast. I think it just looks absolutely superb. And the nearest to the Ping that I would put in terms of what fills you with confidence behind the ball is that M2 driver. It really fills me with a huge amount of confidence that it just looks bigger than everything else. I know there's USGA rules that you can't actually make drivers that are bigger than a certain size, but the way that they stretch the weight around and they actually get that footprint, the TaylorMade M2 for me, that just fills me with so much confidence. I love that driver. The M1 is just a little, ever so slightly more compact, but still fills you with plenty of confidence. But yeah, I just think that they look great. They sound really good as well. These are the best sounding TaylorMade drivers that we've had in any of the driver tests over the last few years that I've done. So as an overall package, I'm a huge fan of the M drivers from TaylorMade.
Yeah, the first thing I'd say is that for me, just putting them behind the ball, I was instantly way happier with M2. And again, this is interesting when you don't have a launch monitor. Normally, I would have hit them both on launch monitor. Would have just let Trackman say which was performing for me. But I had a very strong preference that I thought the M2 looked way better for me behind the ball. What you've got with these drivers is that feeling of I've got to the good stuff here, because when you see that behind the ball, you're thinking, I know that nearly all of the world's best players are currently looking down on this just at the moment. I mean, they are absolutely monopolising that. You know, so many of the best players are using it, and you do feel that you've got the thing that the best players have been trying to use, and you can see why. Yeah, phenomenally reassuring behind the ball with that white leading edge. I agree with you on the acoustics, massive improvement for me. TaylorMade have made over the last couple of years. A phenomenally impressive driver, yeah.
Yeah, and then the last drivers we had were the Titleist 917 drivers. That's actually the driver that I've been using pretty much since they were launched, which I think we're going back to when was it now? About August last year that these were launched. What I do really like about the Titleist 917 drivers is that when you hit one out of the middle, the sound and the feel is just absolutely superb. It's really enjoyable club to hit, and I'm a big fan of what they've done with the adjustability on the sole as well.
Yeah, I've just been for a fitting for 917, so I'm sort of fresh into the numbers, and the thing that was sticking out in these numbers was that when I missed, especially when I got it a bit low off the face, typical miss for me, was that the ball speed numbers were barely dropping, which is incredibly impressive. I was losing 2-3 miles an hour where I might normally lose 8 or 9, 10, whatever it may be. So clearly Titleist are doing really well at making their drivers that little bit more forgiving on the off-center hits. The only thing I would say is that the head doesn't massively suit my eye. Quite surprising, really, with a Titleist. You think with Titleist the looks are going to get you, and then it's just a question of whether the performance lives up to it. Well, I think that these perform a little bit better than they look. It's just quite an unusual look behind the ball, and just purely on looks, there'd be a few others that I would have chosen before it.
Yeah, I mean, like the point that you make there, I know that because I used the 915 driver before and into the 917, and my performance with the 917 was better than the 915. So, say from a Trackman numbers point of view, it was a logical thing for me to move into the 917. But the key thing with the Titleist driver is all about the custom fit. Titleist are a massive custom fit company. They've got some new sort of fitting techniques that they're bringing out this year. This like their 30 and 30 method, where they get you to hit 30 driver swings, and I think that's a massive plus, because I've been fitted by every brand. I've been for loads of driver fittings, and there's just so much variation to the process and to the outcome. And I had actually thought before it would be really good if there was a kind of a standard driver fitting template to work towards, and Titleist have done that with their 30 and 30. Okay, so conclusion time. Firstly, what I definitely would like to reiterate the point that there is not a lot between these clubs. Like I say, go and look at our videos that we've done before. Look at the Trackman numbers. There is literally at the most 5 miles an hour ball speed, between each of these drivers. So don't think that there's one out there that's going to get you 25 extra yards from the ones here, because we don't think that's the case. We think that you should be making your decisions on similar on like the things that we've talked about here. What's important to you? What's most important to you? Is it a particular look? Is it a particular sound? Is it a particular feel? Is it a certain adjustability to maybe minimise a particular miss that you have? Distance wise, there's not a lot in it. For me personally, it's really hard to choose, but I would say that if I was going to go out on the course and play tomorrow, I'd stick with the driver that I've been using most recently, and that's the TaylorMade M2, for the main reason being that it fills me with the most confidence behind the ball, and its performance on miss hits is pretty good. And for me, I strike it all over the face, like Dan's witnessed today. I can strike quite a lot out the heel. I can strike quite a few out the crown. It's actually quite rare that I do find the middle. I found the middle with a couple today, and they obviously, sure enough, they were the best shots, the shots that I hit. When I'm out on the course, that's going to happen. I know that I'm going to hit a few a bit too high, a little bit too low. So what I want is the best possible performance from those strikes. And from what I've found in my testing over the past few months, is that the TaylorMade M2 is really good on that front. And you, I don't think that we've seen anything that's going to make you take the Ping G out of the bag, but if you to snap the head off it coming out of this, coming out of the shack today, and you had to pick a driver to take with you onto the course, what do you think you might plump for?
Well, just to say that on good shots, properly dialed in, I don't think I've noticed very much difference between the performance of any of these drivers. They're all premium drivers made by the best manufacturers, and I'd be amazed if there was very much difference between one and the next on the good shots. What it's all about to me is consistency and what it's doing in real life out on the golf course, and what's happening when I get a bit steep on one, or I just happen to close the face down on one, or I tow it, or whatever it may be. For me, it's how many drives can I get in play. If I use it 10 times in a round, can I get one extra one in play? And that really is the difference. And that's really where the benefit of a good custom fit is coming in, and that's also where you're going to make your decision, because I know there are a couple of drivers there that I probably wouldn't get in play quite as often, and I'm quite wedded to the Ping because I do believe it gives me a good chance with my less than perfect shots. I would probably lean towards an M2, and that is in no small part because I've just seen so many tour players using them.
Yeah, no, it does. It does give you that added confidence. It's a little bit like when you're playing you're playing with the Titleist Pro V1. It just gives you that added little bit whether you know that a large majority of the best players in the world are using it. And these are a real genuine reasons. You might think they're a little bit daft, but they're not. If you can just gain that little bit of extra confidence out of a particular club, it's going to help you out on the golf course, which is really what it's all about. So we hope that's given you a good sort of summary of what we feel to be the best drivers on the market for 2017. We've hit them all. I've been hitting them for months. Dan's had a good hitting session today. We've had our anonymous big hitting them. We really have. We've had some of these drivers in our possession for a good few months now. They've really been put through their paces. This isn't a afternoon hitting a few commentary on. This has been a long process of a driver test. We wanted to put a little bit more into it this year so we can come back with some more in-depth feedback for you guys, because if you're spending some of these drivers are costing £400, it's not something you want to make on a whim. You want to get all the information possible. We hope this has helped you in some way. If you have any questions, please post them below. We'll do our best to answer them. Let us know what you think. We really appreciate you watching our videos, and we hope to see you again soon.